Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I try to trick you a little because then it makes you pay attention to see when I'm tricking you or not, right? And then you will pay attention to what is being said, right? Okay. So we are reading from the 18th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, entitled The Perfection of Renunciation. Text number 6. Etani api tu karmani sangam tyaktva falani cha kartavyan. I have to get glasses to the right place. Kartavyaniti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam etani apatu karmani sangam taktva falani cha kartavyaniti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam etani apitu karmani sangam taktva falani cha kartavyanti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam atani apitu karmani sangam taktva falani cha kartavyaniti me partha nishchitam matam uttamam. Repeat. Etani, all these. Api, certainly. Tu, but. Karmani, activities. Sangam, association. Taktva, renouncing. Falani, results. Cha, also. Kartavyani, should be done as duty. Iti, thus. Me, my. Partha, O son of Pritha. Nishchitam, definite. Matam, opinion. Uttamam, the best. Remind me to mention Karmakanda later, all right? Okay. English translation. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. So now repeat this, because I want you to get this in your mind. I'm going to plant this in your mind, okay? All of these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performances. Is that what we call karmakanda? Is it? Is it? No. Okay. Good. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. Is that what we call karmakanda? Yes? Okay. We'll come back to that. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is said that any activity which leads to devotional service to the Lord should be accepted. That is the highest criterion of religion. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, or charity, which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. Who knows what the idea of Ishtadev means? Who knows it? Someone explain? It's like who your Lord is, right? The person you're praying to, right? Like if they're praying that they want a good husband, who is they praying to? Shiva. If they want a good wife? So if they're praying for so many material benefits, who is their Ishtadev? Must be Santa Claus, right? You don't have that here at Christmas, right? But Santa Claus, they pray, please give me this, and please give me that, and please give me the other. So, therefore, this is what the Karma Kanda is. This is what is amazing, that some people complain that you can't make Brahmins out of the Western people, because many people who are in a Brahmin family, they want to sell someone a puja package for some material benefit. But if you approach a spiritual God for a material benefit, will you get spiritual realization or love? Atmaram is here. He's a great music teacher, right? But let's say I am supposed to learn music from him, but instead I ask him about sports and weather. Will I learn music? Therefore it's his fault, right? Is it his fault? No? So this is also the problem, is that when we have bhakti, we have rasa, we have relationship, we get a feeling of love. If you approach God, just like say you have a friend who just wants to be your friend, is that different than one that says, hey, every time I need something, I call you. I'm your best friend, right? Is it? No. Like they say in America, that the dog is man's best friend, but actually man is the dog's best friend because he has to spend all day serving this dog. So they get the things mixed up. So we have to plant these ideas in mind, that this is the difference between karma kanda and bhakti. Karma kanda, I go to a spiritual God, maybe I go to a demigod, I get some material benefit. Speaking of guitar, Rishi Kumar was one day making the one verse, and he was singing, Antapadu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpa medisham. Alpa means, what does it mean, this? Alpa. You work for me, I'll give you an alpa medisham. Does that sound good? You want employment now? No. So they worship the demigods. The fruits are limited and temporary. Even if we ask God for the temporary things, we are still approaching the spiritual God for a material benefit. So Krishna is speaking differently of these sacrifices. He is trying to get the idea in mind. He says, there's 4 things to look at here. Think about these carefully. All these activities should be performed, number 1, without attachment. Number 2, without any expectation of result. Number 3, they should be performed as a matter of duty. And number 4, we understand that this is Krishna's final opinion. So what we have to do in our preaching is to get people to realize that these are the purpose of sacrifice. We have to make them think that they're thinking of it. I'll do it. Adidev, can you come close here? Now there's these four. I want you to think carefully of these. There's four different reasons in this verse how we should perform the activities. Number one is without attachment. I want you to think of one of these for about 10 seconds. Number two is without expectation of result. Number three, it's performed as a matter of duty. And number four, this is Krishna's final opinion. Now think about one of those four for 10 seconds. Okay, now tell me which one it was.
This is Krishna's final opinion.
Look inside the beginning of this book. What does it say? No, yes, what does the paper say?
My final opinion.
How about that? It was planted in his mind. See? So what we have to do is plant these ideas about sacrifice in people's mind. Because these are the modes of nature. In the mode of goodness, it might seem difficult in the beginning. Spiritual is like goodness, but only spiritualized. So you may not get the result in the beginning, but the result will be a lot better. The mode of passion, it's like pleasure in the beginning, but it's poison later. And ignorance, it's poison in the beginning and in the end. So we have to let people realize that to get a material benefit, a temporary benefit is what? Temporary. And it won't last for long. I tell you, I will give you 100 crore of rupees, and you only get to have these 100 crore of rupees for 12 seconds. You get to tell everybody how you were a multimillionaire for 12 seconds, right? Is it much longer? It's funny, they were doing some Vedic ideas on the History Channel, and they were explaining how time goes different on different planets. The time is different. And they explained how the one person, who was it that went to Brahmaloka to get a husband for his daughter? It was for Revati, wasn't it? Revat, yes, Revat for Revat. And then he asked Brahma, and then he says, okay, well, I want to get a husband for my daughter. I said, what one of these do you think would be good? And Brahma told him that time goes so quick here that all those people are long, long gone. So, we think sometimes, when I was a child, do you know what year was so far in the future it would never come? 2000. Did it come? Almost 18 years ago. But when I was a small child, this was so far in the future, it would never happen, right? But that can't be true because it did happen. So we have to see what Krishna is trying to tell us here about how these activities should be performed. And they get it mixed up in India with the idea about attachment. They say in the verse in the second chapter, I think it's 248, it says, Krishna says, I have a right to perform my duty, right? That's what he says, right? Is that true? But it's not the only thing he says. After that, he says, but you don't have a right to the fruits of the activities. They find this out in even other people who are practicing spiritual life. You know what they say, people who want to be successful? That they're not in the results business. Because as soon as we want to control the results of activities, we become frustrated because the results are not in our hands. We are not in charge of the results. Krishna is in charge of the results. So if we don't perform the activities for some material benefit, why do we do them then? Isn't that the whole point? Why should I be your friend unless you can give me something? I'll be your friend, 200 rupees an hour. And on the weekend, only 150 because I really love you, right? Is it? Right? Just like if you want to get a rickshaw. If they're somewhat friendly, it'll cost you more. If they're your good friend, then it's going to cost you a lot more, isn't it? Is this how we have with Krishna? Krishna, I love you so much, you have to give me extra. Does he have to? No. You give a list to Krishna of things he can't do, then what happens? Krishna gives you a list of things you can't do. Well, whose list will survive? We have an opinion. Is our opinion sometimes fact or always fact? Is it always fact? Is Krishna's opinion always fact? But he's saying that it's his opinion because this is his thinking. But his thinking is in direct proportion to reality. This is his final opinion. That this is why the activities should be done. So if Krishna is the source of everything, and he's directing us how to do things, then shouldn't we follow it that way? If there's a car outside, and the man that designed the car is there, and he tells you how to drive this car, would you listen to him or just try it on your own? We like to try it on our own because we think we don't need Krishna until we do. And then we really need Krishna. So we do it without attachment. We do it out of love. And that's how we feel love. A mother loves a child because A, this baby does so much for them, or B, because they give so much love to the child. Which one? That's why we say in our concept that it's a better concept to have God as a child. Because in the Christian concept, they have, people pray for so many material benefits, and they glorify the Lord's Prayer. It does say in it, hallowed be thy name, but what does it say? How does it go? No, that's a grace before the meal. It's our Father who art in heaven. Yeah, first they say, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So they start with that. Then, give us our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, right? The other one you're saying, that's the grace, right? But we do it differently. We do say, hallowed be thy name, but we don't just say it. We say it. Oh, you great name person. They say, oh, you great name person. No, you say Adidev or Admaram. We actually use the name. We don't just say, hallowed be thy name, right? If you meet your friend, you say, oh, hallowed be thy name, instead of just using the name. Yeah, hallowed be your name, whatever it is. So we are addressing Krishna personally. The idea is, are we doing it out of attachment? Are we doing it for the result? Or are we doing it out of love? Now, of course, we're doing it as a matter of duty. But it's like someone said to me, how long do I have to chant 16 rounds a day? I said, you only have to up until the time you want to, and then you don't feel like you have to anymore. If you want to, you feel differently about it. So we do it as a matter of duty. But when there's great love, you're not just thinking, oh, I have to love the child as a matter of duty. It's a feeling of love and reciprocation. This is what Krishna is trying to get us to, is this feeling of love and reciprocation. Even though any sacrifice is purifying, when it's done for some result, it says here, they should be given up. But this is what is amazing. At so many Brahmins in India, they criticize us for not knowing all the rituals, but they're teaching people how to do some sacrifice. Actually, they do the sacrifice to get some limited and temporary material benefit. Does Krishna mention this practice in Bhagavad-Gita? Some of the things, it's funny, that the Catholics chant on like a rosary beat. It's kind of like japa. And where did that come from? You know where it came from? St. Francis of Assisi went to Egypt, and he noticed that the Muslim Malik was chanting on beads. So he thought that would be a good idea, and he brought it back to the Catholic Church. Is that what we did? We just thought that might be a good idea? Did Prabhupada make it up? Someone said to me, oh, the real birthplace of Lord Chaitanya is in Navadvip, that Prabhupada just invented that it was in Mayapur. Is that true? How do we know it's not true? What's that? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And where did Bhaktisiddhanta start a temple? In Mayapur, right? So if it was manufactured, it wasn't manufactured by Prabhupada. So he's wrong in both premises. One, it wasn't manufactured. And even if it was manufactured, it wasn't manufactured by Prabhupada. So to get the right conclusion, the premises have to be correct, don't they? He can't say Prabhupada manufactured it. One, it wasn't manufactured, and two, of course, it wasn't manufactured by Prabhupada at all. It wasn't even brought up by him. He just followed in the disciplic succession. So, we have to have the facts straight here. So, Krishna is saying that these sacrifices for material benefits should be practiced or given up? Given up. And this idea of chanting on beads, where does this come from? Prabhupada made it up? Lord Chaitanya made it up. Someone know? What? No? Yes? Yes, so we see. And Tene Brahma Ridaye was imparted. Where else? Is it mentioned in any books? Yes, see? Yes, see? We didn't just make this up. It isn't like, oh, that looked like a good idea. We saw a picture of someone doing it, so we did it too. No, Krishna says, of sacrifices, I am pujas for material benefit? No. Or B, I am chanting of holy names japa. Which one? He says that, right? And it's funny, like he was saying in the Christian grace, it was, bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. And one Christian girl was hired to help me take care of my mother. And she asked, why do you offer your food to God instead of just thanking him for it? I said, well, if you have a husband or a boyfriend and you give him a gift and tell him you love him, would you rather he gives you a gift back and tells you he loves you, or just says thank you every time you give him a gift? It's a difference, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Ask that. If you have a wife, every time they say they love you, just say thank you. And do it about 10 times. See how far does that get you? Where? Right? Or they give you a gift. Oh, thank you. It's supposed to be a day you're supposed to exchange gifts, and you get yours. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I love you. Oh, thank you. Instead of saying it back. So we don't just thank. I love Krishna. I thank him for all the things he gives me. No, we actually give something to Krishna. We cook it and we prepare it with love, and we offer it to Krishna. So, we don't find faults with other religions, but, is there a clear-cut direction? Say, well, you should love God. Well, how do you do that? Right? Like you should work putting together the potentiometers. What do you need to know? What is a potentiometer? How do I do this? Right? So, Krishna gives us the ideas that are being explained here in this purport. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. Like one devotee said to Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, you said Krishna consciousness is easy. Prabhupada said, no, I didn't say it's easy, it's simple. But sometimes our mind is diverted to other things. That's why quite often I pray to Krishna, please remove the defects, anarthas, and shortcomings that stand in the way of my usefulness to you. Say that correctly. You don't say, Krishna, please remove the things that stand in the way of my youthfulness. You don't say that, right? We'll get old anyway. We ask him to remove the things that stand in our way, these anarthas, because this is the big difficulty, those things that are in the way. Like when you are driving down the road, you could probably go fast from here to Loy Bazaar. But what's the problem? There's many obstacles in the way, right? So we put some obstacles in the way and wonder, how did these things get here? Like you have a house and you leave the things all over. How did this place become such a mess? We left the obstacles around. So this is the point here, is that we accept everything that's favorable to Krishna consciousness, and we reject everything that's unfavorable. So see if you get that right. The point is to always forget Krishna and never remember him, right? Is that it? No? Do many people practice that though? Yes? And they're awarded a ring for that. If you always forget Krishna and you never remember him, you get a ring. A suffering. Yes. You're promised a ring, it turns out to be a suffering. It's not a lie, it's just a misrepresentation. So Maya misrepresents to us the real value of things. You get it for half the cost. Of course, it's 1/100th the value. We don't see that. It's misrepresented to us. And then our mind also helps to misrepresent. We go along with it. What does Maya mean? To see things the way they aren't really. Right? Like they say, that the man is out looking for women, the drunker he gets, any woman looks good, right? Because he's in illusion, right? All of a sudden anything looks good because they're in illusion. But this is the illusion of it. You know, the body is made just of flesh and blood and pus, but when it's all in the right place, we think, wow, isn't that great? And that's the way the mind thinks. But this is the reality of it, isn't it? So we have to try to do the things that are favorable to Krishna consciousness. So that's the idea. We're acting for Krishna in love. These activities should be formed without attachment. And the activities are sacrifice, charity, penance. So Krishna gives us a program of things that we can do on a regular basis. Like we mentioned, some of those things are there in Bhagavad-Gita. 929 talks about offering leaf, fruit, flower, or water with love and devotion. Not just thanking God, like bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts, which we are about to receive, right? We don't thank Krishna for the gifts he's given us. We offer it to him first. And devotional service is not just an idea, it's a process. So they call it the science of Krishna consciousness. By doing these things, we can actually feel love for Krishna within our heart. So when these activities of sacrifice can be done on a daily basis, they begin with certain activities and certain ways that things can be spiritualized. Things can be spiritualized just like electricity conducts more through metal than it will through wood or through stone, right? That's why the wires are made out of metal. And it conducts well in water also. So the same way, there are ways that we can access spirit through what appears to be matter. There are 5 different things that we have. One of them is chanting the holy name. A second one is associating with devotees. Then we have reading Bhagavatam, which of course can mean Gita and others. Now we have 3. What else are we missing? The deities and the holy Dham. Now this is different. These are 5 things that appear to be material, but spirit comes through them. Just like the electricity can come through water and metal very easily. Even though they aren't electricity, it conducts it. So these things are our bridge from material to spiritual. Now we're talking about processes of devotional service. They're explained. We have to remember what are the processes of devotional service, and what are the things that we don't perform in devotional service. There's different processes of devotional service. See if you can tell me which one of these are processes of devotional service and which are not. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Nindanam, Prajalpanam, Sevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Vandanam, Atmanivedanam. Which one was the process, or which one was it? Prajalpanam is the process? It is, but it isn't a spiritual process. Prajalpanam, what else? Nindanam? What's that? Fault finding. It's so good at fault finding, I can find faults in you that don't even exist. Right? You see what happened to the stories in those we see. So the processes are hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, performing the deity service, offering prayers, doing service, making friends with the Lord, and eventually surrendering everything. That comes as a process. Some people say, like Krishna once just say, well, you just surrender to Christ and that's all you have to do. But it's easy to just say, okay, I just surrender everything to Krishna without knowing what everything is. We have to do a process, because mostly it's things like our body, our mind, and our words. We have to try to engage it in one direction. If the things we say and we do are the same thing, what do we call this? Sim, which means one, and plicity, symbol thinking. The word for, in Latin, for two is dua, right? So if we're saying one thing and doing another, what is that? Do. Do what? Simplicity is one saying the same thing that you're doing. Duplicity would be what? Two different things, right? So they call it two-faced. Saying one thing, doing another. And this is something that takes us some time to do. I asked one person, I said, do you sometimes tell so many lies you forget what the truth is? He says, yes, actually I do. Some people will say and do anything just to get their own benefit. But we're not looking for our benefit. We're in the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Dasyam, Vandanam business. We're not in the result business, working just to get for ourselves. Hopefully we think this way. Sometimes we find devotees don't. They get hung up in doing things, and sometimes people do something wrong and cheat other devotees, and they usually get a very bad reaction for this. You probably don't see them around anymore. Because it's much better to do here, as Krishna says, everything in relationship to Krishna must be accepted. So if we say we love Krishna and Prabhupada, but we mistreat devotees, is that simplicity or duplicity? But I love Prabhupada. Doesn't that make it okay? Doesn't that make it okay? It's like come with a stick and I start hitting all the Indian people. I said, what are you doing? But I love India. What will they think? They think, wow, he's a patriot. Will they? You can't say, I love India, but I hate all the people here. Can you separate it like this? Is this not duplicity? So Krishna is trying to get us on this simplicity program, to say the same thing that we're doing. We have to think about it, right? Prabhupada used to say that in Los Angeles, that we should be so straightforward that we disclose the hidden treasure even to an enemy. Because here's the thing. If we don't like people to know bad things about us, then we either have to lie about it or change what we do, right? Or we have to be honest and just bite the bullet, right? Because there's another way, right? You know how you stop people from finding things out about you? You know the best way to stop them? What is it? You tell them first, right? If you tell people first, then it's not such a big deal. I made this mistake, I've done this wrong. It's just like if someone did something wrong, which would Prabhupada rather hear? How you're going to correct it, or make excuses for yourself? What's that, excusanam? Is that the, he wasn't impressed by this? He wasn't impressed by an excuse? Excusanam or blaminam? Is that it? You're just blaming on someone else, isn't that it? Bhadrinarayan Swami was saying when he first became the temple president in Ann Arbor that he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what does it mean to be the temple president? And he thought Prabhupada would say that, well, you're my representative in this. He said, if something goes wrong, it's your fault. And this is a better way to function. If even the Harry S. Truman, one of the presidents of the United States, says the buck stops here. You can't blame it on someone else. They did that when the Nazis were all arrested and facing the trials at Nuremberg. They would say, I was only doing what I was told to do. And they asked that of Alfred Jodl. He said, I was only following orders. They said, but you're the top German general. You can't make the excuse that you're following the orders when you're the one giving the orders. But they would all just use this excuse. So excusanam is not one of the processes. You notice that? Right? It's better to think how I can do something better next time. Even Tom Hopkins, a sales trainer, says, I never see failure as failure, but only as an opportunity to perfect my performance. So we do a failure, we think how we can do something better. But we're much better to admit that and go on. Now, of course, if we don't like to have certain things out there, then we have to think, if I'm going to say what I'm doing, then maybe I should be careful about what I'm doing. You know, where were you at 10 minutes to 5 this morning? Oh, I was in the temple chanting, right? I remember I said to somebody years ago, oh, I saw you before I even said it, oh, I wasn't there. I hadn't even said where they were yet, but they were already denying that they were there, right? I hadn't even said it yet, but they were so afraid of whatever their activity was that they were denying that they were there, and I hadn't even said where they were yet. No, I wasn't there. It wasn't me. So, this is not a very happy way to live. The happy way to live is to try to do things in Krishna consciousness, and to do things, like Krishna says, being free from attachment, fear, and anger in 4.10. So we should not be attached to any particular service. They're all done in love. We saw that story when Lord Rama was building the bridge to Lanka, and Hanuman is moving the big boulders, and the squirrel is kicking sand. Hanuman says, get out of the way, I'm making a bridge to Lanka. And Rama says, what are you doing? Hanuman says, I'm building a bridge, but the squirrel's in my way. So Rama says, where do you get your strength? Hanuman says, I get it from you, my lord. He says, where does the squirrel get his? He also gets it from you. Then you're each working to the capacity that you've been given. So we have to not be proud of what we have or embarrassed with what little we have. We take what we have and we engage it in Krishna's service. And we work by these ideas here. That we remember that Krishna has an opinion that's synonymous with fact. When you have an opinion, it's not synonymous with fact. Sometimes it may be, sometimes it may not be. That when we act, we are not attached. And we're not working for the result. We're doing it out of love for Krishna. We're happy when results come for Krishna. Like the person who's doing books, they try to engage people in Krishna's service. But how they do better by getting more people is not being attached. Because generally what they do, I tried to tell some devotees in Laguna Beach to do it the way Vaisheshika did it. Because what they were doing is just saying, oh, can you give a few pennies for a book? They said, because if you try to get their attention and then get their interest, they're usually not interested. But if you can't get their attention, then you're not going to get their interest or their money. So you can't be attached. Vaisheshika was talking about finding the low-hanging fruit. So the first job is to find the low-hanging fruit. Not to try to pick the ones that are too far away. Try to find, first you get someone's attention. And if you can't get their attention, you're not attached. You just go next, 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 next. And by not being attached that each person is going to do it. In the beginning, they're just trying to get someone's attention. Then when they get their attention, they try to get their interest. If they can't get their interest, they let them go, get the attention of someone else. Then if they can get that person's interest, then they create a desire by showing about the book and telling what we're doing. And then they call to action for that. But if they can't get the first stages, they're not attached to trying to push it all the way along. And by not being attached, they get better result, because the result is they are trying to find the people who may actually want this. You're giving out something of value. If you go out to give out 2,000 rupee notes and people don't want them, do you feel bad about yourself? You'll find some people, if you can convince them what it is, that they will say, give me 100 rupees, give me 100 rupees. But if you showed them first that it's a 2,000 rupee note, I'm selling it for this. So if you created the value in these books before you ask for the price, and if somehow people didn't understand, you don't become attached and hold this against yourself. You just try to do the process. You do the service. When Prabhupada came, he wasn't immediately successful. He just went on preaching. He went to the Tompkins Square Park and chanted in New York. He went to the Hippie Hill in San Francisco, where they end the Rath Yatra, and he chanted there. He just did the process until he could get some people's attention. And then when you get their attention, then you start gradually teaching people to come along. And you have to know it's a process. In the beginning, you don't introduce all the regulative principles to people. But later on, you have to know when to bring that in. Just like if you open a school, you need a first grade for the beginners, and then you need a sixth grade. But you can't say, well, so many people are beginners, close the sixth standard, or close the first standard because now people are here. You need to keep all of these open. You need to have a place where people can be brahmacharis, living strict life in the temple, where people are grahastas coming every day, where people come several times a week, or where people come just to get started. We need to create all of these facilities for people to engage in Krishna consciousness. And this will be the best charity in that, is to see what they need. Just like if a person goes to the hospital, they find out what they need first. This is why, in one sense, they just serve and surrender to Krishna. So what difference does it make if somebody is in search of money, or in distress, or they're inquisitive, or they're in search of knowledge of the absolute truth? If they just surrender to Krishna and get out of the material world, why do we study those four kinds? Who can tell me? Why would we study those four kinds? The treatment will be different. That's right. Just like when you go to a pharmacy, the medicine you need is there, but you can't just buy medicines. I'm sick, give me medicine. Sometimes they do that here. They just give you medicine without checking. They almost don't look, but you need to know what the condition is before you give the treatment, right? You have to find out what their position is. So a lot of this is finding out about people and not being attached. You just plant the seed and you wait. How long does Krishna wait? Quite a while, right? Quite a while. We don't want to wait that long, do we? We don't want to wait as long as Krishna does for people. So this is the idea. We perform this without attachment. We do the things that are favorable for Krishna consciousness. And bhakti means that we don't come to God with a shopping list. Okay, you didn't finish my last list, God. But even though I'm still upset that you didn't finish it. But someone came yesterday and says, well, I am upset with Krishna. I said, why? He said, well, the temple is closed at 1 o'clock and we brought all the students here to. I said, but can you change that? I said, but it always closes at 12:45. You can come back at 4. He says, well, I'm upset that it's not open then. So we have to find out. We have to not be upset with Krishna. We have to find out what the details are. We have to find out, just like the timings here, we have to find out what's good for us and what's not good for us, what kind of charity to do and what kind of charity not to do, right? Like if the person is so drunk they can't reach the bottle of alcohol, the charity is you grab it and give it to them? Is that the good charity? Is that like giving a gun to someone who's depressed? Oh, you're depressed? I have a gun. Is that what you do? It's like a charity. It's like snakes helping baby birds back to the nest. They don't do this. So we have to learn from this chapter, what is proper charity? What is proper penance? What are proper actions? And the main thing is we do all these services to Krishna out of love for Krishna. We read about Om Tat Sat, to achieve the supreme, to be free from material entanglement, and to go back to the ultimate abode. So we have any questions or comments about this verse?
You were sure you just had 6 or 6 and 7 is also there? I'm just asking, I think 7 is also.
I was told 6.
Okay.
So-
On the paper they've written.
Oh, really? Oh, well, yes.
Thank you very much for the class, Prabhu. Could you please explain the difference between Smaranam and Vandanam?
Vandanam is offering prayers. Smaranam is remembering, like we read about. Well, remembering is, for instance, like the gopis did when Krishna disappeared during the rasa dance. They started remembering all of Krishna's pastimes and thinking about the things that Krishna did and when he did them, how Krishna danced to Ankaliya, how Krishna danced with the gopis, how Krishna swallowed the forest fire, how Krishna would go out into the field with the cows, how Krishna killed the Aristasura, how he threw the Denikasura into the trees. All the activities, remembering Krishna's activities is smaranam. Praying can be different things. You're glorifying the Lord, Like, what is it? Devaki says, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. She praises Krishna for his different relationships with the people. Or we can ask Krishna to help us in our devotional service. And we can pray to remove difficulties that stand in the way of our service. So these are prayers. We're either telling Krishna about his glories, or telling him what we want to do for him, or about how much we love him, or we're asking him to help us in our devotional service. Whereas Smaranam is remembering the pastimes of Krishna. So one of them is speaking and one of them is thinking. We're speaking either prayers or glorification to Krishna, requests or glorifications, and Smaranam is remembering the different pastimes. I think yes?
You mentioned we don't want to wait quite a while how Krishna waits.
Yes.
But when, at the same time, even when we're preaching, if some people do not take up Krishna consciousness very quickly, then we get frustrated, or
We don't, yes.
mostly we want to wait with ourselves, but we don't wait with others.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is, like, I asked Pragosh, who was very good at distributing books, how are you successful at distributing books? He said, I spend 90% of the time with the 10% who are most likely to buy. So if people don't seem ready yet, you plant them with the seed, yes, come here. Kind of like people do in business. They have like hot leads, warm leads, and cold leads. And the hot leads, they know people, say it's in real estate, they're ready to buy a house, so they send them lists of houses, and they tell them times they're available to go look at houses, and they set appointments with them. Warm leads are letting them know that, you're thinking of moving, so here's some of the things that are going on. And cold is, whenever it comes in the future, I'm available for you. So we have to know that if somebody's not ready for something yet, that we do better to spend the time with someone it is. And we're thinking, I can't sell the book to the one who wants it. I have to force the one who doesn't. So we spend the time looking for people who are ready for it first. Sometimes people do this. People try to help someone who's having a problem. They try to help family members who don't want it, and they try to force solutions on them. And this doesn't work as well as just finding people who are maybe interested in Krishna consciousness and spiritual solutions to their problems. You find people who are interested first. So if someone doesn't seem to be there, put the attention to someone who might be. You find the book distributor who lets that person go and looks for someone he can get their attention and interest, does better than the person who keeps pushing on the one who you couldn't get their attention. So if you can't break through the first thing, then you plant the seed and look for someone else. We work it in that way. We don't try to force things. Yes, Anura?
Is there any difference between the fullness of Krishna and the renunciation? Is there a renunciation that you speak about Bhagavad-Gita?
Any difference between the...
Yes, Bhagavad-Gita speaks about renunciation within the action, no?
Yes.
So is there any difference between that renunciation and what the renunciation of Krishna and the opulence of Krishna?
What, Krishna's renunciation?
The fame, strength, beauty, the harmonic renunciation.
Well, that's why Krishna's, he has a supreme, because even though we deny him, he's not worried about it. And even though he loves us, he is prepared to let us do what we want to do. Which makes it interesting, because it's easy to be renounced when you have nothing. Or it's easy to enjoy opulences when you have them, but to have opulences and still be renounced at the same time. The difference is that we're subject to the law of contradiction. I'm either a man or I'm a woman. I'm either inside or outside. I'm either young or old. I'm either alive or I'm dead. I'm either a man or I'm an animal, right? Whereas Krishna is not subject to these. That's how Lord Nrsimhadev appeared. Hiranyakashipu thought he had it all covered. I'm not going to be killed by someone who's a man or a beast. I can't be killed by something live or dead. I won't be killed inside or outside. I won't be killed during the day or the night. So Krishna he's Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adim Puranam Purusham. He's the oldest person in creation. So is God painted as an old man? Is he? He is. Michelangelo painted God in the Sistine Chapel in Rome as an old man, because he figures that if he's the oldest person, he must be old man with a gray beard. But this isn't true, because for us, we're either an old person or we're a young person. But Krishna can be the oldest person in creation and Navajovanamscha, always appearing as a fresh youth. This is the law of contradiction, which Krishna is not subject to. We can't do that. Of course, we have makeup and plastic surgery, but that just makes you look a little less old, right? You're very old instead of very, very old. It doesn't make you look young, right? You don't turn to, as they say, a spring chicken anymore, isn't it? But that's what people are thinking. They want to be young again. But that's because that's our natural condition. So Krishna is renounced because he's willing to wait for us forever and ever and ever until we make the choice to come to him. But the difference is that God is sanctioning activities. He just lets them do what they want. But if you turn towards him, he gives you guidance. And that's a whole different thing. The more we turn to him, the more guidance he gives us. So that's what we try to do. We try to turn to him. I saw that in my lifetime. This is why we create opportunities for people, like with books and chanting. When I went to the music festival in, I was just a child, in 1967, and the Brotherhood of Love people were singing this song. I said, "What's this song?" They said, "There's a Swami on Pico Boulevard, and he taught us this mantra." And it goes like this: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You've heard that one? It's written in the temple in Hindi and in English. So after I did that, a few days later, a friend of mine was shooting at animals, and he squished a dove, the bird of peace, with a rock. And I said, that's a cruel thing to do. He said, well, you eat meat, don't you? I said, yes, most of us do. He said, how many animals do they have to kill for you to eat meat? I said, probably a lot. He said, so is it any worse for me to kill one more bird than for you to eat all those animals? I said, you're right. He said, so it's okay for me to kill the bird? I said, no, I'll never eat meat again, and I didn't. So because I had chanted along with them, I took a step to Krishna, and he took the step to me. So if I hadn't chanted with them, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And my friends in Laguna who were spiritual seekers, they always used to say that for real spiritual life, someday we have to give up illicit sex and intoxication. Not like today, later, right? St. Augustine, the Catholic saint, said, please God, make me chaste to you. But don't do it yet, right? So we think that way. Yes, let me surrender, but not yet. So they used to say that. Someday we have to give up illicit sex and intoxication. And this was the time of free love and marijuana and beer and all that kind of stuff. So then I used to watch in a bookstore, in the Mystic Arts World bookstore. Some of the times I would work a couple hours and I'd read this book called Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And it said in there that bhakti means we just ask God for some way to serve him. So I used to go to my special meditation rock and I would pray for some way to develop love for God. So one day on January 5th, 1970, I got this real strong inspiration that if you really want the love of God, you have to give up illicit sex and intoxication. I thought, well, you know what, there's a few more parties I want to go to where they have big kegs of beer, and there's 2 more girls in high school that I want to date before high school's over, right? And so what I'll do is I'll wait till that's all over, and then I'll give them up. And I thought, well, if it's not a good idea, I shouldn't do it. But if it is a good idea, I might as well do it now, right? If someone's offering you a kilo of gold, you say, well, maybe later. You know, if it's a kilo of dog stool, you don't take it. It's a gold, you do. It's either worth it or it isn't. So I thought, well, this is kind of a big order. I said, but all right, God, I'll give these things up. I said, I'll give up the illicit sex and intoxication, and you send me a way to develop love for you. And I opened my eyes, and about far away as Prabhupada is in the picture up there, was a devotee in saffron walking towards me. And before that, I thought, how long will it take, a week, a month, a year to find out? And then he came up to me, and I said, what are you doing here at the beach? He said, I was up on the hill, we were all singing up there, chanting. And all of a sudden, I got this uncontrollable compulsion that I should go down to the beach right now. He said, would you like to come and chant with us? I said, I think that's exactly what I'm supposed to do. So, because I took of course that was more than one step for a teenage boy, wasn't it? To give up, girls were beautiful in Laguna and all the other things were going on. And I was going to give this up to find a God I didn't know about yet. So when I did that, then Krishna comes to you. So if you're taking some steps, then you develop some magic, some special, wonderful things happen. But if we don't take those things, right? Like I have the incense at home, right? And if I light it, it burns. If I don't light it, it doesn't burn. Doesn't mean it can't burn. It just means you have to connect it with the flame. So we have to connect that with our desire. We have to desire that, okay, I surrendered a little, I got some benefit. The obvious conclusion is if I surrender more, I'll get more benefit, right? If you pour a little water on your head and you get wet, you have to figure if I pour a bucket, I'll get more wet, won't I? Must be, right? So this is what we have to understand here, is that we are actually benefiting. We are willing to do the things for material benefits, which sometimes we don't even know where they'll take us, right? Or they do. Like people go out and drink alcohol. Last weekend, they suffered so much, but this weekend will be different. Where's the evidence to support that? All the other times they went out and drank, they said and did stupid things. Sometimes they got arrested for drunk driving. The next day they felt horrible. But this time will be different. Based on what evidence? Where's the evidence that it will be different? Right? They keep on experimenting with something they already know the result to. I burned my finger. Well, I'm going to experiment next week and see if it burns again, right? Right? Is that it? Oh. So,